Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Falani. So welcome back from the, International Labor Day, holiday, Nigeria being one of, being part of the Committee of Nations. We also observed a national holiday. Okay, since then, we discussed the subject matter, but let's just show you, how it went in Lagos State. It happened all over the country. Let's show you the Lagos State version of it yesterday as a brief recap before we go into our main subject today.
It's a day to pay tribute to the hardworking men and women whose dedication and commitment contribute immensely to Lagos as a center of excellence. In their speeches, Chairman, Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, Lagos State Council noted that the celebration calls for sober reflection, especially with the current economic hardship in the country. They listed issues to be addressed by the government to include the approval of new minimum wage for workers and not increment.
We are hopeful to receive the announcement of a living wage and not an increment on our salary. NUT are appealing to Mr. Governor that the wage award of 35,000 that you are paying willingly and freely, the local government chairmen, they were paying 25,000. We will visit them after 7 days. We are ready to shut down all the local government if they refuse to pay these arrears.
For Governor Sanwo-Olu, workers deserve to be treated with dignity, and the state government will continue to create an environment where they can feel valued, safe, and empowered.
I want to reaffirm our commitment to building a more inclusive and equitable society in which the interest of the workforce receives the attention that it deserves. We will continue to invest not only in our educational sector, we'll ensure that we provide equipment in various workplaces in a safe and sound environment.
The governor also spoke about the fuel scarcity in the state, adding that it will be fixed in a couple of days.
I want to assure you that we have enough fuel in our various tank farms. It's only the logistics of getting the fuel from their various tank farm and depot. Let us just wait, and for the next couple of days, it will clear out.
At the event, the workers took the center stage of the stadium for the march past. The governor salutes the invaluable contributions of the workers across all sectors.
May Day is celebrated around the world to raise awareness of the rights of the working people and to protect them from exploitation. It serves as a reminder of the important role played by the working class and laborers in this society. Adedoja, Salam Adeni, TVC News, Lagos.
Okay, so there you have it. A cut back to the event in Lagos, the national holiday and celebration, May 1st in Lagos. Well, you saw Comrade Sesi there, an NLC stalwart, apart from the governor. There still is a point of, how it is, a point of, disagreement. One newspaper, one national newspaper this morning, the Punch in front of me, captures it quite well. It says, federal government, labor talks deadlocked. NLC defends 615,000 naira demand. Of course, that's up at the, at the upper end. But just for you to know, and I imagine that what Labour is doing is that, it knows that it's a negotiating process. And so they have it at 615,000 naira, a minimum wage. Anything below 615,000 naira, according to NLC TUC, in their demand, will make workers poorer. Well, you could call in if you want, just for a little while, before, as I said, we go on to our other subject. But I don't know what you think of the position of, Labour. It looks like we're going to have another round of protracted talks. Labour, no doubt, seeing it as doing their job for the workers of Nigeria. Without the workers, then there is no wealth. And so they've also made the point that the Nigerian worker is not getting a good deal. In fact, it has given the 31st of May as the deadline for the minimum wage. That's what we have in there I don't know, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, but the extent to which that's going to be possible remains to be seen. I expect that when we go into talks, when they're not deadlocked anymore, then there'll be some figure, between, I think, is it somewhere around 300 and something and 615 that Labour is defending as the absolute minimum. So that's really that on that, because yesterday was Labour Day and we had a full program on it. But then, following from all of that is where we're at now. You also heard Governor, away from Labour a bit, sort of. You also heard Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos there speaking on the fuel scarcity that has created something of a problem all over the country, but in particular in Lagos State. Black market or what? People who are seeing it as another season of making a quick buck, a fast buck, sold the product at something like anywhere between 900 and 1,000 naira a litre. But Governor Sanwo-Olu there was just saying what we've always been told since this all started, that there is no real, shortage. The governor put it down to logistics. Others on our program yesterday, when we also touched on this subject, you recall that there are those who put it down to, sabotage. Any way you want to look at it, this has to be sabotage. But, the official line is that it's not, well, the official line didn't contradict anything, like saying it is not this or it is not that, but it did say that if you're going to take it as an authority, then it is no more than a logistical issue, and that these things happen. They've tried to explain the logistics part of it, but the point is, it really has wreaked havoc on society. And there are those who felt that since we've come away from, we thought we had seen the end or the last of fuel shortages since the subsidy on fuel has been removed. Like a lot of people never thought that we would still be going through this, but here we are again. This time it said that yes, we're still contending with the removal of fuel subsidy, but now it's logistics. Did I hear Banjo is calling in from the UK? Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the minimum wage.
Yes.
The Labour are talking about.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. I think, I don't know, if the government could adopt a practice all over the world where the advanced countries, they pay minimum rate. They have a minimum rate rather than a minimum wage, because not all the private sectors will be able to pay this minimum wage.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yes. I did hear the point, and other viewers are hearing it as well. I don't know if it is similar, a minimum rate as opposed to a minimum wage. Is that what you said? That's what you're saying.
Minimum rate. Yeah, that's correct.
A minimum rate would be okay and would be better, is what you are saying, than insisting on a minimum wage.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the contribution. These are the kind of things that we are also here. And no doubt, surely there will be experts at the negotiating platform. And these are the kind of things that they're going to, they probably will be taking on board and will be telling us what is doable. Why are we talking about a minimum wage is the question, rather than a minimum rate. There's a difference. If you have a minimum rate, and I think similar to that point, we also had people call in yesterday and tell us that, this thing is a difficult thing because standards are not the same across the board all over the country. And so, what might be right for one area, one state, if you want, might not necessarily be right for the other. So these are some of the things that will have to factor into the negotiations that are sure to follow. Maybe that's why the headline is saying federal government and labor talks deadlocked. as NLC is defending the demand of 615. But as Banjo has just said from the UK, the wage and the rate is not the same. Why aren't we talking about a minimum rate? I wish I had those experts here. I don't want to go into it myself. I wish I had those experts here to help us explain the difference between the two. Sadiq is in Ikoyi. Good morning. Good morning, Sadiq in Ikoyi. Can you hear us? Oh dear. Sadiq in Ikoyi, can you hear us? Good morning. I fear that there might be a technical issue because for a number of seconds there, I was hearing the echo of my voice. So I don't know if there's a delay between us and where you are. It happens from time to time. I don't know if Sadiq, can you hear us? If you can hear us, Sadiq, you're on now. Good morning. Okay, so as I was just saying, a viewer has called in and spoken about the difference between a rate and a wage. Labor is saying that anything below 615,000 naira, and I imagine that's across the board, not I imagine, for sure, that is the position of NLC, that anything below that will just make workers even poorer than they are. So it's really going to be a struggle. No, maybe I shouldn't even say that. Maybe I should just wait for the event to take place, for the process of negotiation to start, and let's see how they, what the issues are. Calling in from the UK, we've got Mrs. Akimbolaji again. Good morning, Mrs. Akimbolaji.
Good morning, Mr. Yori Folari. This is the first time after 10 years I've been trying to call TVC.
Great.
I thank God for today anyway.
We thank God for today. Thank you very much for calling in.
Ada
in Jos.
Yeah. You see, one thing that we need to learn in Nigeria that can make things easier, even for the people governing us, that they will not be having all these accusations, stress, and all. No. They are comparing things from abroad, but they never compare the plans and the way they are executing things in abroad. So if the comparison has to be right, it has to go the same way. Like here now, if you are pension, you have your gratuity, you have your pension, you have your this, everything is in right from when you are working. They have highlighted it. You don't need to ask. You don't need to be stressing for it. 2 years to the time, they will give you a reminder. So year you are pensioning. So day, keep it. That will be a record reminder. 1 year, they will remind you. The government, then when it is that right time, you will have your letter. When it will start, how much you will be taking. They will even ask you. If you are not pleased, this is the number or the email to call or to write to. We will explain to you what we work out that contribute to what we are offering you. That is stand. If you're a single mother, you have your dues. That will not make you be stressed when you are working. They will give you discount from your house, discount, and the houses, everything is there. Your children will take. But they don't compare all this in Nigeria. They just talk about what they are doing, how they are paying. Then the tax. You are talking tax. How do they satisfy their people? You don't talk about it. How they make stress less for them? You don't talk about it. The way they make things good for them, that they are happy, that everybody is suffering. Even the politicians, they bring their family here because they know it's good. Why can't they implicate that place? They are educated people. They went to free school. They benefit from Nigeria than anybody. So they should work this out. Let it go the same way. Indeed. As they are comparing. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kimbolaji. Thank you for calling in from the UK. What can I tell you? You know it all. You've been here, you've gone over there, and you know the two systems, and now you're a bit impatient that, look, I think from your point of view, it's not rocket science, but we have to start somewhere. And so here we are. It's all about reforming the entire system. And that's what this particular administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, that's what he said is key on his list, his to-do list. Things need to be reformed. We need to begin to approximate some of the things you were talking about, Mrs. Akimbolaji. Yeah, I mean, we are getting some new ideas, aren't we? Government's focus is, changing slightly. Things that weren't really considered before are being considered now. Look at the whole mining sector and all of that. And, look at the whole student loan sector. So, yeah, these might not be more than drops in the water to some people, but we've made a start somewhere. And I'm sure you understand, Mrs. Akimbolaji. It's not going to happen overnight. But I assure you, from what we've been told, you also have been told, we are on a reformation process. Now, someone else has called in. Say it again, please. Who? Tell me again. Who has called in? Elder David from Alimosho. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Happy New Month, Yori.
Happy New Month to you. Happy New Month.
Elder David from Alimosho. Thank you, sir. Good morning. Happy New Month, sir.
Same to you. Please go ahead now with your contribution.
The month of freedom for every one of us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very happy for one thing. The government just gave a relief. Some percentage, which me and you are aware of.
Yes. I'm sorry, don't listen to that echo. It's something happened this morning. Don't listen to that.
That the government have given some relief, 30% and 35%, 25%. But when the union are negotiating, okay.
Go ahead, Elder. Go ahead, Elder. I just try to avoid the, okay, I know you can't not hear it, but unfortunately it is what it is. This feedback that we're getting, it's a technical thing. So sorry about that, where you are hearing what I said in the last few seconds. You'll be hearing that, and it can be distracting, and it can be quite a psychological feat, especially when it's you yourself, not to listen to yourself when you hear yourself being played back to you. So sorry about that. But Elder David came on, and he was going to talk about the percentages, that the federal government has released as an increment that will happen to Nigerian workers, and not just workers, also pensioners. They're also going to get an upgrade, and all of that, has been noted. But in Labour, it's important to note, Labour has been saying that, all of that won't come to 615,000 naira, and that seems to be where they are staying right now. Ada in Jos, good morning to you.
Hello.
Somebody tried to do your Ogadima. Good morning.
Yes, I'm calling from Jos Plateau State. I was so happy I'm watching, Akim Bolaji has made my day. That's what I've been saying here. Each time we talk about what happens in Nigeria, you see people comparing, in the US, they have taken this one per dollar. But they forget that they work in hours there. But in Nigeria, you can be taking sick leave, going for burials, whatever. At the end of the month, you're paid. So we're not comparing it properly, you understand? Then it's a functional democracy. I keep saying it. Our own is dysfunctional. I'm sorry to say that. But we'll get there sometime, someday, as you said. The problem now is, for instance, this minimum wage you're talking about. Even Labour himself, the way they are even negotiating, I think it's a joke of the year. How can they say 615,000. You know that it's not feasible. So it looks like a joke. And even the two labor unions or whatever, they're not even united or speaking with one voice. That's the problem. Let's speak with one voice and come up with something. And then the government itself, since it's something that is, according to law, that every 5 years there should be a minimum wage, increase. Why can't they do it quietly? Do we have to set up a committee that will spend billions of naira to sit? Why can't it, when it's 5 years, they do it quietly? Then, as I said yesterday, they subsidize education, subsidize health, subsidize transportation, subsidize, there was something else I mentioned, housing, 4 things. If they do it, the minimum wage doesn't have to be too much, Let the money have value. That's the way to go. And then the national fiscal federalism, instead to analyze what it has, and then the look at its own page and pay its minimum wage. How are you going to do a blanket minimum wage now? The federal government is doing a blanket national minimum wage. What of the private sector? If they now take that and say, okay, private sector, if you have 20 workers, you must pay this national minimum wage. The private sector that cannot pay will downsize, and you can't put a gun in the neck not to downsize. So why are we digging a new hole to fill an old one? All the same, let's not do for Nigeria.
Agadim Ada, thank you very much for calling in. And on that greeting note, it will indeed be well. I'll just take a break. We'll be right back, and then we'll come and look at our intended subject this morning, which is, the challenge of Nigeria's out-of-school children. We'll be speaking with the Executive Secretary, the newly appointed Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children. He'll be joining us from our Abuja studio. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And, coming out of labor issues, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm sure we'll still be touching base with it from time to time in the near future. But let's go on and look at another important aspect of our, society, talking about our children and education. It's a very depressing rate when you look at the figures of out-of-school children in Nigeria. And this morning, we'll be hosting the secretary, the new executive secretary of the National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children Education, in the person of Dr. Muhammad Sani Idris. Now, thank you very much for making the time for us, Dr. Idris.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you for having me.
Indeed, it is our pleasure. It's a big task, isn't it? Any way you look at it, it's a big task, and I imagine it must be multifaceted. So to sort of get our bearing and see as much of this particularly important subject that we can take, let's start off by, understanding what the mandate is of your body in relation to this challenging assignment.
Thank you very much once again for having me. I want to appreciate the fact that Nigerians are now concerned about the plight of the out-of-school children. Nigerians are now discussing the more about the future of our downtrodden children. You will agree with me that since the advent of this administration last year, His Excellency the President is very much concerned about the security of this country. He is very much concerned about the future of our younger ones. His Excellency is not oblivious of the danger that is inherent in having some Nigerians that are out of school. So I think one of his key priorities is how to bring back those students that are not in school back to school. The issue of Almajiri education, this age-long decade system of education that requires serious revitalization, is also occupying a very serious attention in the scheme of President's administration. So The ministry is, commission is saddled with the responsibility of making sure that within the period of 4 years, these 10 million Nigerians that are outside the schools are back to school. And
that is across the board.
Data.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Across the board, yes.
Across the board, because a part of the, and I was going to ask you about that next, the extent of the challenge. If you're saying 10 million students you want to get them back in school. I was just looking at some figures that are available, but you will correct me. You will tell me about how, factual that data is. We have over almost 70% of these children of school age, are out of school in Kebbi State, for example, and then it goes down 66% in Sokoto, 62% in Yobe, Zamfara 61%, and Bauchi 55%. Let me just cut off there. And so when you say 10 million, what portion of the entire problem is that?
Let me tell you that most of the data that are beforehand largely lacking in integrity. That is why one of the serious mandates of the Commission is to make sure that we arrive at a very serious data that is going to be cogent and verifiable. Some are saying that the out-of-school children are up to 20 million. Of course, this is a data given to us by UNICEF. Others are limiting it to 10,000. Whatever the number is alarming, that some Nigerians are not going to school, and some Nigerians are out of school, and that is actually giving us a serious concern, because an uneducated country is a country where, a country that will be overwhelmed by the mayhem that is already bedeviling us. Take, for instance, the issue of Boko Haram. Boko Haram is completely a product of lack of education and lack of knowledge. Some people have taken advantage of the ignorance of the correct exegesis of some verses of the Holy Quran of those people. Most of them are memorizers of the Holy Quran. They can read Quran off head, but they are oblivious of the correct exegesis of the teachings of those verses. Someone out of his personal desire will come and give them interpretation that will suit their devilish purpose. That was what actually prompted some young Nigerians to take arms against their people, to take arms against government, and to take arms against people of the other religion. Now, it is the concern of this government that those people should be given the tool that will lead them to correct understanding of the teachings of the Holy Quran. Some of the students, some of us here in Nigeria are bandits. Go to Zamfara, people are not sleeping with their two eyes closed. Kebbi, Northwest, and almost all parts, all the northern and the southern parts of Nigeria are being bedeviled by one problem, one security problem or the other. This is largely due to the fact that those people are actually uneducated. And because they are uneducated, some highly placed Nigerians are taking advantage of their illiteracy, and they are exposing them to this type of dangerous activities. So for us to actually give Nigerians the Nigeria they are praying to have, those students that are within the age bracket of schooling, they must be taken back to school. Short of that, Nigeria will live a life of doom. Nigeria will live a life that no one of us will be proud to be a Nigerian again.
Indeed. As you say, figures, when I was speaking, when we were privileged to speak with the Honorable Minister of Education on this program, on this particular subject matter of education in Nigeria and the plans for it, he had spoken, as you are, about the needs to get verifiable data, accurate data, because you can't really do much without knowing the lie of the ground. And he also made suggestions such as you have made that, well, that's a work in progress to get the data. But because we need to know the extent of the problem. Now, when we talk about even what UNESCO is providing figures, some of those depressing figures that I reeled out there is the question of Almajiri, the Almajiri education system. It's prevalent in the north. There have been commentators who have come on and said that, look, the Almajiri system is what it is. They themselves, as you know, as they are speaking now, they also went through the Almajiri system. But you know, it's not thought, it's an age-old system. For our international viewers, could you just briefly explain what the Almajiri system is? And, you know, because it seems to me that we're not about to get rid of it. Nobody wants to ditch it. President Jonathan, in his time, actually started out, you know, put something on the ground. It hasn't been deemed to be widely successful, but he did try to address the problem. In brief, Doctor, what is the Almajiri system? And are we getting rid of it, or are we going to try and inculcate it into whatever it is that we're planning for education?
I want to thank you for this very important question. I want to say that this Almajiri system of education has actually contributed towards economic and financial development of this country. Almajiri education has, to a large extent, contributed to the well-being of Nigeria. I just want to remind you that those are the same malams that are praying for Nigeria. That those are the same malams that are praying, you know, for the protection of this country and its leaders 5 times a day. So it's a system that we actually need to appreciate. Almajiri, the product of Almajiri schools who memorize Quran have in one way or the other contributed tremendously to the development of this country. However, what we are saying is that this system needed to be revitalized. It's an attempt by some Nigerians to memorize Quran. And to a large extent, you know, all Muslims are of the belief that the first education that their children are supposed to acquire is the Quranic education. And therefore, Quranic education, you know, is part of their religious belief, is part of their religious expectations that parents should strive to make sure that their children are well educated as far as the issue of Quranic memorization is concerned. However, that requires some modification in the approach. That requires some modification in the way it is being conducted. It is not acceptable within the Islamic tenets. It is not recognized within the Islamic doctrines that one should give birth to a child and just take him to and run away from his responsibility by taking him to a Quranic teacher. Go to the north now. You see children at the age of 3 years, at the age of 4 years, you know, leaving their hometowns, leaving their parents to go and they largely depend on begging. Nigeria has tremendously changed.
Okay,
there are good people in this country.
You know, sorry, Doctor, you just mixed 2 things together, 2 important parts of it. The Almajiri system, on the one hand, spoke about the arduous task of memorizing the Holy Quran as a part of education, and but you've also just added one of the, you know, more not so positive aspect, which is the begging part. By the way, could I just ask, did you yourself, Dr. Muhammad Sani Idris, go through the Almajiri system?
Yes, I want to say that, Alhamdulillah, I am also a memorizer of the Holy Quran as well, an English speaker, that this is what we are advocating, that it is possible for us to send our children to Quranic school and again accept to dualize the curriculum of the Quranic schools. It is possible for us to produce engineers that are memorizers of the Holy Quran. We have practiced that in many private schools in the north. Take example, for example, El Kanemi College of Islamic Theology in Maiduguri. Take example of Al Iman School here in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital. Year in, year out, those schools are producing excellent memorizers of the Holy Quran and excellent scientists who got the ability to speak English and speak it very well, and also got the ability to recite the Quran and recite it very well. Those are students actually that are not going to anybody looking for any alms. They are not going to any house to beg for food. They are not going to anybody to ask for sustenance. That it is doable. The vision this administration is having is that it is doable while we maintain the Quranic schools, while we encourage students and Al-Majiri to pursue legitimately they are seeking for the memorization of the Holy Quran. But they have a role to play. They have to contribute to the development of this country. They have to contribute to the development of the economy of this country. That God has endowed them with enough cognitive capacity that they can read Quran, memorize it, and read other subjects and specialize probably in a subject like engineering, medicine, and what have you. So in other way, what we are saying, while we try to, read out the issue of begging from the Al-Majri system of education, there is also need to integrate, the Western education so that Quranic education will serve as a center where dual knowledge is being administered on our students and children.
Okay, let me bring in our first caller on this subject this morning. David has called in from Mowe. Good morning, David. David, if you can hear me, good morning. Okay, unfortunately, there are another technical issue. So, well, Dr. Idris, thank you very much. Interesting point that you made there, and it also touched on what I was going to ask about next, and because you yourself are a living proof here. You're a doctor. I didn't bother to ask if you were an academic doctor or a medical doctor, but you are a doctor, and you also benefited from Al-Majri education, which is centuries old. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, okay. I can hear you.
Okay.
Come again, please.
I said I didn't bother to ask if you were a medical doctor or a doctor of philosophy, but here we are. It's from the Al-Majri stage, here you are, a medical doctor, and I beg your pardon, a doctor, and it brings me to what I was going to ask about, and I think it must be part of your mandate. How to persuade the society that this Al-Majri system that is quite dear to the minds of some is not going to somehow clash or you won't find opposition to it. Is there indeed a way to do that? To have a situation where all the millions of children of school age, Western school age, that are not in school, you spoke yourself just now about 3-year-old kids, on the streets, purportedly learning the Quran, and unfortunately, there's also the begging aspect. Maybe in answering this question, you could also mop up the efforts of Dr. Ebele Jonathan, former president, who actually tried to work on this, and it's not generally been adjudged as success. What are you going to do with the structure that he left? Improve on it, scrap it, start again? And what was wrong with the efforts of Dr. Jonathan, President Jonathan, in his time in this regard?
Okay, I want to appreciate, the effort laid down by His Excellency, the former President Jonathan. Jonathan has demonstrated without doubt, the greatness of this country, that education is in the north is the concern of the people of the south. And Jonathan has actually strived to make sure that this system is seriously revitalized. This is actually indicating the oneness of Nigeria. And believe you me, I want to share it with you. It is not a secret, and we require no tutorial to tell us that President Tinubu is actually having sleepless nights about the issue of the flight of those out-of-school children. And the issue of out-of-school children is not only limited to the northern part of Nigeria. I just want to take advantage of my being with you to ask our brothers in the southwest, what happens to the legacies of Awolowo? Our brothers, the Yorubas, are having the greatest number of professors in Nigeria, if not in Africa. quite a good number of them are professors. What happened to the younger ones now that are not going to school? How can we, be celebrating a good number of professors within our domain while a good number of our children are not attending schools? And we want to go tomorrow to our beds and sleep with our 2 eyes closed? No. Those people will definitely ask us for a payback. And that payback is going to be dangerous, and is going to be in a sort of mayhem that will be unleashed on probably the elite. What happens to our Igbos, brothers, in the southeast? Look at
I hear what you're saying, sir.
The intellectual acumen Igbos are endowed with by God. But it is being perished now. A lot of them are apprentices.
I do hear what you're saying, Dr. Idris, and I appreciate the comparison. But it's because, as I said, between Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe, Zamfara, you have 67%, 66%, 62%, 61% of children of, school age out of school. But you were speaking about the Southwest. If you look at Ogun State, for instance, it's considered to be quite high at 20.5%, according to these figures. You went to the Southeast, there's a problem. I think Anambra, for instance, is 2.9% of children, of school age out of school. So, this is not to make any point, but it's just to say that we are talking about the Almajiri system simply because if it were an accepted and appreciated system, then the figures might not be as high as it is. And so you were just telling us, you were just speaking to us about what, President Jonathan did. You commended it. But how do we take it from there? What is your commission going to do? Because I think it is clear to me that you are not jettisoning. Nigeria is not about to jettison the Almajiri system. I don't think so. We're not about to outlaw it. And, I think we want to have it side by side. So how is that going to work if it didn't work with the efforts of Dr. Jonathan? That was the question that I asked. But in the meantime, sorry, sir, let me bring on Ola, who has called in from Abuja. So I'll come back to you later on for that. Good morning. Oh, dear, I left it too late for Ola. But go ahead now, Dr. Idris. What?
Okay. The emphasis I actually wanted to make through the comparison is that actually this commission is not only concerned about the North. This commission is concerned about Nigeria.
It is not.
And every single child in Nigeria, whether from the North or from the South, is of concern to Mr. President. This government is placing importance on that child, and that child must go back to school. But let me tell you actually what happened. Despite our appreciation to what the Jonathan administration did, but as you said, that the program is largely unsuccessful. There are some technical errors actually that happened, and which I think my commission will take cognizance of them. Number one, the issue of the data. As I told you, when you don't have cogent and verifiable data, then you are bound to make serious mistake in your planning processes. And when you fail to plan well, you are planning very well to fail. So what we are going to do now is to make sure that we have data that has a lot of integrity. And to a large extent, we are actually going to look for the assistance of the emirs and chiefs who are actually custodians of most of these Quranic schools. The other issue is the advocacy. When you are going to Rome, as I said, you should behave as Romans, do. So sometimes some of our approaches in the advocacy is also inimical to the success of the exercise we are conducting. If you go to talk to Malam, you have to let him feel that actually the government is only concerned about assisting him to improve in the well-being of his students and to make better the pedagogies that are being utilized. Let me tell you that in Quranic schools, students spend about from 5 to 11 years before they memorize Quran. Now the new pedagogies are saying that it is possible for you to memorize Quran within a period of 2 years.
Wow.
The other issue.
We've improved methodologies.
Yes.
I see.
There are actually newly invented methodologies that only requires a student to stay within the Al-Majri system of education for 2 years to memorize Quran. And this, you can also add some English, mathematics, and basic literacy to the Quranic education that they are oblivious of. There is the need for us actually to play please give me some time to buttress my point. There is also a need for us, to play some documentary for the Malams to see the dangers those students, those Al-Majidis are being exposed to. Just 5 days in your state, about 5 Al-Majiri, died mysteriously of a food poison. You cannot continue to allow Nigerians to die because someone is running away from his responsibilities. Those Malams should be made to know that the Nigeria of their time, when they have the freedom of accessing all houses to go and beg, it's not the same Nigeria. You now have many things that are happening in some homes.
I must interject. I'm so sorry, Doctor, but I must interject here because I wanted to ask what the problem of funding. All of this is going to cost money. So really, we've almost run out of time. So I wanted you to talk on, where you're going to get the funding from this for this from.
Let me tell you, my brother, when you make people aware of the importance of education, they will also contribute their quota towards making their children enlightened. We cannot, the government should not be allowed to shoulder, 100% responsibility. We have good Samaritans in Nigeria. We have well-to-do people in Nigeria. And this is a community service that if they are properly approached, they will be more than willing, to partake. We also have international donors. Let me just give an example. We had a BESDA program that aimed at...
Very briefly, Dr. Idris, yes. Very briefly. We're fast running out of time. Very briefly, please. Continue.
Okay. Let me tell you that a BESDA program was also conducted in Nigeria, and the aim of BESDA program was actually to bring back to school the out-of-school children and the Al-Majris. So a lot of people are actually willing to donate to the flight of the Al-Majri, to make life better for Al-Majri. What we are saying is, as government officials, we have to think outside the box, and that is what we are religiously ready to do.
Thank you very much, especially for keeping it brief. Any other message that you've got for all stakeholders in education? Because it's an onerous task, but you seem to have persuaded us that you're up to it. Any other things you would like to say to stakeholders in education?
Yes, I actually want to appeal to all the players in the education industry, as well as the teachers, that one of the reasons why the issue of out-of-school children is still persisting unresolved is because our secondary schools now are no longer enticing the out-of-school children to come. Students are going to secondary schools as blank slates, and they are coming out of secondary schools as blank slates. Those outside, the school system are not being enticed. So I want to appeal to the teachers, I want to appeal to everybody to fear God, that on the day of judgment, everybody will be resurrected and everybody will give account of his stewardship. If you are managing a classroom of 40, you should remember that on the day of judgment, you will give account before God of all the 40s. Failing to teach one of them, you will actually be subjected to a lot of questioning before God. And if you could not answer, I fear that, the chastised hell could be...
I wish we had more time.
The last abode.
I wish we had more time, Dr. Mohammed Sani Idris. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Executive Secretary, congratulations on the new appointment, National Commission for Al-Majiri and Out-of-School Children. Thank you very much for coming on the program this morning. Certainly wish you all the best in your endeavor.
Thank you, my brother, for having me once again.
All right, then. So we're going to have to leave it there now. That's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.